A fine first half display from Exeter left the Stormers with just too much to do. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. Exeter, in this one, they get themselves an early line out in a good position, but the Stormers are able to get up, nick it, and then they're able to clear. Stormers, initially, they're looking good in defence. They're quick off the line. They're applying some pressure, but Exeter have most of the ball. Exeter, then they find some space on the edge. Did that pretty well today, getting the ball out there. Noel makes a half break. Then they switch it to the other wing, get it to outside the Stormers again, but they're too slow to move the ball, and one of the passes goes forward. It was very plodding from them, honestly, at that time. If they had to put the ball through the hands quickly, it could have been a try. Exeter, then they try a crossfield kick off the back of a scrum, but Willemse is there. He claims it, steps the Exeter player coming up, and then is able to clear. We then have a long kick by the Stormers, is gathered by Wyatt. They return it, move it out to Woodburn, who breaks on the left, recycle it. Joe Simmons then puts a pinpoint pass over to Wyatt from one side to the other, in behind, and he goes over to score. It's converted for 7-0. Really was a peach of a kick pass from Joe Simmons there for that try. Stormers then, they're trying to respond up and under, but the forwards don't retreat despite the referee telling them to, and Exeter win a penalty to go up the line. Stormers again, they nick the line out. Exeter, though, inevitably turned the ball over, and it's so hard for the Stormers to hold on to any ball at all, and because of that, they find it really hard to get any kind of foothold in the game. Stormers then, they do have a chance from a line out into 22 after a penalty. They spread it, but they get isolated as a kick gets charged down. Noel gets over the ball, and it's a penalty, and they clear. So basically, like, the Stormers are trying to, kind of kick crossfield, to kick in behind, got charged down, went to one of their players, and then, there was just a bunch of extra players around him, Noel getting over there. Slade then, he kicks a 50-22, as there's just no one at home for the Stormers. Willemse had pushed up into the line, and it's an attacking lineup for Exeter. Stormers managed to hold them 10 metres out, but then Noel snipes. He wriggles out of a challenge from Dixon and then stretches out to score on the line, right beneath the post, as Van Ryn was tackling him. That's converted worth of 14-0, and feeling like Stormers, they need to work their way back into the game. Then they do get an opportunity to win a penalty and a scrum. Lebock, though, he doesn't find touch, and can't afford these errors in a quarter final where every point is going to count, and missing touch just completely stripped them of any kind of momentum that they were trying to build at that point in the first half. Stormers, they needed everything that they could to try and get back into the game. Slade then, he kicks long again. Willemse gets himself just completely tied in knots with it. He's running back. I don't know what he's doing, almost falling over himself, and he knocks the ball out into touch. Exeter then, they go over the top from the line out. O'Brien is there just behind it, obviously a set piece move. He pops it off to Woodburn, who goes through a hole and goes over to score. That's converted for 21-0. Stormers looking like they're in real trouble at this point. Darber then, he wins a penalty for them with the clock in the red. They kick it up the line, and Then they charge through, but Exeter again, they turn them over, get the ball off, and it's half time. And yeah, first half has been all Exeter. Stormers have hardly fired a shot. They need a good start to the second half. I think, at that point, I'm thinking it's vital for them to have any chance to get back into the game. Obviously, coaches think the same because Engelbrecht and Diamani come on to replace Pocamella and Theunison in the back row. Definitely looking to spark something with those changes. Wilms at the start, nice counter from him. Through that, they get to within 10 metres of the line, but Exeter managed to bundle Yankees into touch. Exeter then work themselves upfield and they strike again to go through the phases on the edge of the Stormers 22, and then San Simmons put through just a massive hole between Ori and Malherba. Definitely some miscommunication in the defence there to leave that big a hole. It's converted for 28-0, and yeah, just thinking that should be that, honestly. Still most of the half to play, but it feels like Stormers just don't have it in them today. Street then gets pinged for off feed. There's an excellent kick from Lebach, puts it into the corner. They're about 7 or 8 metres out. They maul it then to win a few metres, but Exeter managed to get in there. Johnny Gray right in through the middle of the maul. They collapse it, make it unplayable, and it's a scrum to Exeter. Initially, Raynell was actually indicating that it was a Stormer scrum, but he just kind of got confused about which team was which, I think. Exeter, though, then they get pinged for engaging early at the scrum, and the free kick is changed to a penalty because it's the second time that they've done it in the game. Stormers, from there they truck it up. They get pretty much to the line, but not over it. Then spread it. We have a long pass out to Sinatla, who cuts inside and offloads to Willemse, and Willemse does really well to finish without dropping the ball because there's basically an Exeter player, who'd run in right where he was going to put the ball on the ground, so it could have easily been knocked out of his hands, but no, he finishes. Lebach, his conversion drifts to the right and wide. We're at 28-5. Stormers finally on the board, but yeah, wondering, can they really come back from this? Thinking, they would have had to maybe, every point, every conversion going their way. So then Stormers, though, they do have a sustained period of possession on the edge of the Exeter 22, probably the longest they've held onto the ball to this point in the game. It was, they got there because nice break from Sinatla. Exeter get pinged at the breakdown, and Stormers go to the corner again. Chiefs, though, do well to halt them all, and then they force the Stormers back to the edge of the 22. The ball is kind of turned over, one ruck after the other, first by Exeter and then by the Stormers. And Stormers come back. Nell bursts through a hole and he goes over the line, but then we have a TMO check, and we see that Kitsov is ruled to have obstructed Slade from making a tackle because he's basically running ahead of the ball carrier, and although he doesn't change his line, he still is preventing the tackle. Interestingly, though, it's something we've seen Anton Dupont do a lot for France and for Toulouse, where he will often run ahead of the ball carrier and does that kind of thing as well, where he's almost shepherding and shielding them, and then when they're ready to offload, he just drops back a little bit and is there ready to receive the pass. But I think just Kitsov is obviously massive compared to Dupont and sticks out when he tries to do something sneaky. So unlucky for him, I think, but the try is chalked off. From there, then Yankees puts a lovely chip over the top from the base of a ruck in his own half. Hartzenberg gets there just before Wyatt steps him. Then he has a clear run to the line. Noel chases hard, coming across the pitch. He doesn't get to him in order to prevent the try, but what he does is he forces him to basically ground in the corner, which means that the conversion kick is much more difficult, and that is missed. We're at 28-10. Stormers then are on the attack again. They're in the shadows of the posts. Blomkeys, though Blomkeys gets isolated as Isofa Scott gets over the ball, penalty to Exeter, and they clear. And you're thinking, another chance for the Stormers there. They got a couple of tries, but they would have needed to get something there to kind of spark any chance of a genuine comeback. Exeter then win a scrum penalty in the Stormers half. There's a massive roar from the players and the fans, and you can feel like that, they feel like that is the winning of the game right there. They kick it to the corner. MacLeod and the Stormers just can't handle them as they crash over. Yendall is the scorer, is converted. We're at 35-10. Ori then, there's like a ruck maybe about 15, 20 meters away from the Exeter line. He charges down Kearns' kick. We then have a foot race between him and Kearns. So you got this massive gangly second row versus this little nippy scrum half. Kearns actually just about gets there before him, but as his arm kind of flails to try and get to the ball, he completely misses the ball. Kearns does get to the ball, and it looks like he grounds it. But then we have a TMO check, and Renal told the TMO he didn't see it, so he needs to check try or no try. TMO checks it, tells Renal, Exeter player has missed the ball. The blue player, which is the Stormers player, which is it's gone out of my head for a second. Who was it again? That was Jason. But anyway, Stormers player. He said he's got to the ball first, and it's a try. Oh, it was Ori, yeah. So he's got to the ball. He's grounded it. Renal is just not convinced, and he keeps asking him to replay it again, show this angle, show that angle. And TMO keeps saying to him, okay, here it is. Here, look, he's in control of the ball. It's grounded. There's no hand under the ball. It's a try. And Renal's like, I'm not sure. And then eventually he relents and awards a try. But they mentioned in commentary, I think the same as well, that if this had been a try where like Stormers would have won the game, I don't think he would have awarded it. I think he was just not convinced by it. Obviously, the TMO was, and a kind of interesting dynamic there that the two of them just couldn't agree. And in order to have a decision, Renal just kind of gave in the end, probably because of where the score was. If it had been a vital score, I don't think he would have done that. We could have been there for another 5 minutes, and then who knows what would happen. But from there, then, there's still time for Exeter to get another. Stormers try and run it out their own 22, gets intercepted by Woodburn, and then a couple of offloads later, Kearns goes over to score. It's converted. Final score is 42-17. Now, let's have a look at some of the stats from the game. So, possession was 56-44. That was much more skewed in Exeter's favour in the first half. A bit more even in the second half, but overall, yeah, they had more of the ball. Same with territory as well, 58% to 42. Exeter just kind of smothered them in that first half. And also, although they had more possession of territory, they did better than the Stormers really when they got into the 22 as well. They were scoring more points per visit. Tries then 6-3. Not really, like, in the end, not a big factor in the game in terms of like the tries that were scored by the Stormers, those three, basically came when the game was over. You could argue that the first two tries did give them a chance at a comeback, but it never really felt like that was going to happen. And then the ones that Exeter kind of tacked on towards the end then just kind of skewed it a bit more in their favour as well. Clean breaks was 8 each. Meters made 287 for Exeter and 423 for the Stormers. And it just shows again, like, looking at that, if you'd been told, about the meters made, and then that one team scored 6 tries and the other 3, you probably would have thought that Stormers, having made more meters, scored more tries, but Exeter were just, so much more clinical than them when they got in position. There's a couple of times where, Stormers, when they finally got their game going, could have made a real match of it, but weren't able to. Tackle success then, 83% for Exeter, 86 for the Stormers. Probably maybe a percent or two down than where you would expect them to be normally, but at this level, the attacks are a step above maybe what you faced before in the competition as well. So you do expect that tackle success to drop off a little bit. Penalties conceded, 7 for Exeter and 10 for the Stormers. I felt like with the Stormers, some of the penalties that they gave stripped them of momentum, and then the penalties that they did win, they didn't make the most of them either. In terms of the game, the teams going from here then, Stormers, they've been excellent the past 2 seasons since they joined the URC. Obviously, this is their debut season in the Champions Cup. They felt they looked very flat today, especially in that first half, where I felt the game had been, was pretty much decided by half time. They will learn from this. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be too long before we have a South African winner of this competition. But it's obviously not going to be this year now that the last South African team have been knocked out. In terms of Exeter then, full of energy, especially in the first 50 minutes. I really thought that they'd feel the extra time that, in their legs that they had to put in last week, but not a hint of it at all. Great performance from them. And they're going to be a real threat in their semi-final.